Right, so thanks everyone for joining this session for formaldehyde. As I have mentioned, we have already completed the particulate matter, carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, and ozone today, and now we are moving with formaldehyde. Let me jump to this session, and it's here. Again, the questions are the same, more or less, about those pollutants. Later on, we have more questions about ventilation and filtration, which are coming this Friday. But for formaldehyde, as it's another gas, we are discussing whether we have to adopt this space adaptability feature that we have inside the GoQS, which basically we want to link the average limits with the different indoor environments. And in a question that I asked a month ago, the community, they said that they agree with it, but there were some other comments, few of them, but again, not all of the people participated in the survey, that they suggested like having target limits instead of having all of those different numbers that in most cases confuse not only the public, but also even companies that build instruments around their quality and how they can use those numbers to educate their clients around their quality. So as in any other group, I also took all of the standards that I could find about formaldehyde in that case, and I categorize them based on the average time exposure or a ceiling limit or and they find in case they didn't specify whether they follow a limit, a specific limit or an hour average. And as you can see, for formaldehyde, we have even 50-minute exposure time or even 30 minutes, something that we couldn't find from some other pollutants. But inside GoOQS, we don't have those limits. What we have at GoQS is a year, 24-hour, 8 hours, and 1 hour mean values. And those are the limits that we suggested, 10 micrograms for 1 year, 20 micrograms per cubic meter for 24 hours mean, 30 micrograms for 8-hour means, and 80 micrograms per cubic meter for 1 hour means. The majority agreed. There was no comment around that. I would like to hear your opinion today and hear if it's possible. First of all, of whether we should go with a ceiling limit and have just one value, or we should adapt those proposed limits that you can see on your screen. So if you would like to speak, you can raise your hand or feel free to open your microphone and speak. For people that some cases they cannot speak, that they are in... Okay, go ahead, Kiro.
Yes, also here for the formal diet, we have to take some consideration about the work exposure to formaldehyde that is regulated by short time and exposure to high limits of formaldehyde, like for example in hospital where formalin is used for biological or other work exposure rather than common use of formaldehyde within the furniture that can expose in workspaces or in residential places to chronicle exposure to formaldehyde. So different things that we have to clarify. And probably we have to focus on the second one, not to the limit of exposure to workplaces.
Yeah, as we have already mentioned, I don't think GoAQS is the right standard
Yeah,
to help the occupational space. With
yeah,
standards, they have governments, they have specific bodies for that, and we wouldn't like to jump into that category at the moment.
yeah,
So basically, we are talking about exposure of people like you and myself,
yeah.
occupants or employees, if you like, in an office environment, or students at schools, or occupants in the hospitals, but as patients, not as workers there.
Yeah, correct. Totally agree.
Um, anyone else? Any comment?
This is a problem is more severe in Asia, and so Asia people are more aware of it. But in Europe, because the regulation on building materials and also on furnitures is tougher. So it's so quite often the problem is not that severe, but people are not aware how bad that could be because even furnitures or paint or building materials, they meet the regulation, but as a whole put in a occupancy in a room or in a house in an office, that accumulated formaldehyde could could be a lot higher than it should be
Mm-hmm.
because individual product is meet the regulation at a certain level, but when it's actually used, that will be extremely high. So the problem, people not aware how bad that is in Europe. So how can we make some kind of awareness for people to know how bad the formaldehyde is? That's one of the things we
Mm-hmm.
realize it. We found it's quite difficult to tell people that.
Indeed,
So
yeah, please.
sorry, we did because we can convert formaldehyde into CO2 and water, so it's evaporated. We also have a liquid which can spray on the surface of furnitures or something, kind of basically to remove the problem of formaldehyde for furnitures for indoors. And we tried to promote in UK, but I could not get it through at all.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way for people will to buy that service and do anything about it. Yeah.
Indeed, in Europe, we have a stricter regulation around formaldehyde and products. But in some other places of the world, like you mentioned, China, but also in the US, you can find even cosmetics that they use formaldehyde in their
Yes.
products.
Yes.
And we would like to bring this awareness around formaldehyde in other countries. And this is what we do at GoEQS, right? Like having a common framework around protection from a variety of pollutants. Um, so yeah, I completely agree with you.
Yes.
Um,
We we okay. We did a lot of tests for cars.
mhm,
Yeah, a lot test for cars, and in China basically because we are selling the liquid in China
mhm,
to remedy the problem for furnitures or indoor furnitures, also including cars. And we found out none of them car manufacturer have met WHO requirement for formaldehyde if it's new.
mhm,
None of them, even very good brand like Audi or or BMW, and they're good, they're very good brand. They are indoor for the new cars. The formaldehyde requirement doesn't meet at all. Basically, it's way high. It's way high than it is supposed to be. And myself got a new Mini Cooper, and I'm surprised the formaldehyde level is roughly four times of WHO safe level, and also this is a British made. So it's not
Mhm.
not good brand. It's very good brand, but it's still the indoor formaldehyde is that high. Yeah.
Hero?
Yeah, this is a common problem also in, as you mentioned, in the United States, in North America, like Canada, where the houses are built of wood. Whatever there is use of new materials with glues that are with low content of formaldehyde, whenever the building is new, whenever the apartment is new, the release of formaldehyde at the beginning of the life of this building is spreading a lot of formaldehyde, then it's reducing over time. So I think people is not aware about it, but the right information can bring, for example, some mitigations that are, for example, not releasing the apartment in the right month that has been finished, but keep 3 months, doesn't matter how much, keep the ventilation on, and you reduce at least the early life release of formaldehyde. This is the same for cars, for
Mhm.
example. Whenever a car stays sometimes with open windows, or it's not like as soon as it's released from the factory used, the exposure to formaldehyde can be dramatically reduced because in the first 2 3 months, the drop of formaldehyde is very fast from my experience.
Mhm. Yeah, this is called flushing when
Yeah,
you have to open, expose, let's say, to air or even light furnitures and products in order to accelerate the off-gassing, basically. And for some people, this smell of the brand new that they
it's
have
good.
associated, right? In many cases, it's a combination of chemicals that they're not healthy.
Mhm.
Okay. Those were some of the comments that we received during the survey. When it comes to health and gaseous products, what I do, what I do understand is initial exposure limits. I have always been concerned with building up harmful of toxic gases, like mixing them in the human body. Mark is not here with us today; he's actually sick. Space adaptability, again, this is a common comment that someone has shared across different groups. Again, we are not going to have manufacturing facility and warehouses in our agenda, but we do have hospitals, right? Uh, yeah, and hospitality in general. Formaldehyde limits in China are set at very high levels because already not enough policies to reduce formaldehyde in building material. This should be taken into account. And this is the same thing like Tanli said. Maybe this is your comment, I don't remember. Who has comment on?
This is probably my comment
Okay,
also. Last one.
perfect. Um, yeah. Uh, and if someone has any comments regarding those comments, let me know. And here is the question that I've asked lately, all of the working groups. What's the unit of measurement that we should adopt in order to have like a common language around the different pollutants? And in this case, formaldehyde, is it part per billions, parts per million, micrograms per cubic meters, milligrams? WHO again for formaldehyde is communicating everything in micrograms per cubic meter. But again, for people that they weren't in the previous conversation, instruments in general, when they measure gases, they rely on parts per billion or million, depending on the concentrations. So what we said earlier was that maybe it's time for us to ask as a common unit to be parts per billion or parts per million, doesn't matter. And then with some explanation, let the public know that for some reason WHO, for example, uses micrograms per cubic meter. And that's going to help sensor manufacturers at the same time make a better products for the public, like by having parts per billion, parts per million, and standards with those numbers around. What do you think, Hiro?
Probably is correct what you mentioned. This is the right approach for me, but probably something that we can add. I know that the conversion from ppb to micrograms takes into account pressure, temperature, ambient conditions itself. But if you check, uh, uh, normally the conversion is always done in the instruments using the standard temperature and pressure.
Mhm.
But what is not, if you try to go online to make conversion, we find different numbers in terms of mass that is used for this conversion. So you have a slight difference that can confuse. Probably we can also standardize this way of conversion, providing the right conversion tools that doesn't give any doubt to make the conversion. So you put one number
Mhm.
and you have the output in the other one. I know that is not probably scientific approach to simplify, but probably makes easier people to understand that two numbers can be converted. Tiny explaining, of course, the reason why it should be taking into account temperature and pressure, but also introducing which is the difference in case we convert to 30 degree rather than 25 degree. We show that the difference is minimum and we can standardize a way to converting, making things easier.
Mhm. No, you're absolutely right. I have run into this problem myself when I was trying to convert values from one website to another, and they didn't align. Maybe someone, didn't include a digit at the end of the molecular weight of a specific gas, and that throws the whole accuracy, if you like, of the number out of the picture. So this is very actually easy to do. Like we can suggest, if you do the conversion, you can base your conversion on the actual temperature and atmospheric pressure if your instrument provides those values. Otherwise, you should use like the standardized 25 degrees, 1 atmosphere of pressure, and so on. And also we can give examples, right? Like inside the document that we have, we can include some conversions of the most common numbers like 10, 20, 100, and people start associating. For example, this is the way I've learned Fahrenheit when I was living in the US. I couldn't understand what's the temperature. So I had to go through a period of education in order to be able to understand what people are talking about when it comes to temperature. And the same thing applies with air quality. And if you remember, in the presentation I have created, I have used this analogy. Perfect.
And
Uh,
but just even just giving the mass weight as a number that cannot bring confusion, you don't have to look around, facilitate a lot.
mhm. As we have Maria and she represents another company, I would like to hear your opinion, Maria, about your instruments and what type of units are you using commonly.
Yeah, yeah, thanks, Tirios. We are actually for formaldehyde is quite easier than TVOCs. We are not covering them by
Mhm.
GoAQS, but our sensor is giving the signal on PPPs. But we have implemented in our platform the standard conversion by understanding what Cito was saying, just standard temperature, pressure, and molecular weight, of course. So we have that approach and it is in our platform. But I think it is very interesting to actually harmonize what that conversion factor might be, even though might not be, as you were saying, yeah, this scientific approach as you're not going to be checking temperature and pressure every time you want to convert. So for us, I mean, we manufacture a device, not the sensor. And our sensor is giving this PPB value. And we thought it was interesting to also have this
Mhm.
conversion to micrograms per cubic meter. But yeah, I think whatever is easier to understand, and it really needs to be easy to understand for people and of course technicals as working on indoor quality, but at the same time for manufacturers or platform designers or whatever to have that information easy to check and validate. So for
Mhm.
us, yeah, both of them work. Maybe our sensors, low cost sensors, all of them for formaldehyde give the value on PPP, and then we are converting the information. But we could do it the other way around. I mean, we're working on the firmware, so we could actually have the initial value converted in a standardized way in our firmware and then convert it, or the user have the possibility to convert it.
Thank you. Yes, please.
Yeah, I think that the really important thing is to avoid that people can have confusion and compare two things that are different. Like comparing, for example, ozone that is measured in ppb to ozone that is measured to micrograms per meter cube means it's half the measurement. And if you compare, because you don't understand that there are two ways to measure, can make misleading the information. Like, for example, totally different way of understanding if it's polluted or not. This is the most important thing. So a part of education, I think it should be done to avoid that people are giving this one. When you have done this and you simplify, good, because at least you understand that they are different and you find a way to compare in your mind or in an Excel file or on the fly if you have a conversion tool. This is much more important than be accurate in conversion for me.
Perfect. And I agree completely.
Yeah.
Okay. So unless someone wants to add something else regarding the limit number that we should adopt, I would like to conclude that, again, it makes sense that we don't follow those space availability features with formaldehyde as well, and having like a threshold, a ceiling limit, which probably it's going to be the lowest we can get, and have it inside the GoEQS framework. Does the rest of you agree with that? Okay, someone raised his hand very briefly but disappeared. Feel free to speak or write a comment. I don't mind. And also, this is another comment that I have received in a recent conversation that I had with someone working from the policy aspect, saying that it's very difficult and challenging to communicate different numbers with people. And maybe it's easier for us to consider like one limit per pollutant rather than having different numbers. Okay. What time is it? 25 minutes only. Okay. That's all then. I would like to thank you again. I will make all this information publicly for everyone to comment and try to standardize all of this information that we shared, which I think is very important, within the week that is coming. So thank you again and have a great day.